Okay, hello everyone. Right now I will present to you the FI-WARE use cases panel, directed and moderated by Juan Joyero. Please give them a warm welcome.
Yeah, great.
Thank you very much. Well, I guess that this is the second day, right, of this campus party, and you have starting to hear a lot about FI-WARE, the FIPPP, this ambitious program that we are running with very nice pricing hackathons and providing technology that you as developers can use for develop nice applications in the future internet. This session is about elaborating on some examples and testimonies of how FI-WARE could be used in different usage areas, and in particular with particular interest and focus on smart cities. For those who have not had the opportunity to see us in the main stage presentation of the FI-WARE and the FIPPP, let me show you a small video that could introduce the whole program and the project.
The Internet today provides citizens communication, information delivery, social networks, mobile applications, media contents, and e-commerce. It is a great achievement for humankind. However, its sustainability is tied so far to limited business revenues, mainly digital and physical assets trading, e-commerce, leisure, media contents, and advertising, user profiling, online adverts. New businesses and growth should emerge. Otherwise, the so-called internet economy bubble will certainly become true and therefore collapse. Sectors like energy, agriculture, logistics of things and people, environmental care, media contents, and urban development and safety are suitable to exploit totally new frameworks of internet services. Such a synergic combination will lead to the creation of new opportunities, revenues, and jobs on both sides, the ICT sector and each one of those industries. To enable this path, the European Commission and leading companies in Europe have implemented the Future Internet Public-Private Partnership, FIPPP. FI-WARE is building the core platform, a kind of operating system of the future Internet, by focusing on the technology. Work is focused on technology alternative selection, alignment and influence in standards adopted by the industry, and the complexity of scalability and performance. On the contrary, use case projects focus today on requirements of actual customers within vertical sectors. Later on, they will work out high solutions based on the FI-WARE platform. With all that in mind, what's really new in this platform that will disrupt the current landscape for the sake of vertical sectors? One of the main challenges of FI-WARE as a project, besides delivering an architecture and real-life implementation of a software architecture, is to enable an open community of developers to move all outcomes forward. FI-WARE enablers are classified in wide technology chapters.
Good. So, as you see, a very ambitious program is implying an investment, overall investment of 600 million euros coming together from a public-private partnership and bringing together the major stakeholders in the ICT industry in Europe, but also the European Commission, and trying to not only deliver the technology, but very importantly, create an open innovation ecosystem that is able to attract the the major stakeholders, the developers, the application sponsors, the technology providers, and anything that is needed to really boost the economy in Europe and lower the barriers of innovations for startups and developers. This technology can be used in a wide range of application domains. And here we are bringing some testimonies about how this could be used. Let me show you a video on how this could be used in one of those domains.
Today's energy providers have really embraced change. There are huge transformations happening in the energy sector. Everywhere you see wind generation and solar panel on roofs, and this is causing problems and challenges to the energy grid operators. At the same time, consumers want to be able to optimize the efficiency of their energy usage, and many consumers want to become prosumers. Making the grid bidirectional requires us to bring in new technologies from the communications and information technology sector.
Well, the energy world is changing drastically in the upcoming decades. Consumers will become producers, and producers will have a total different influence on their consumption. And in the midst of it is the grid. It is vitally important to make that smart, intelligent, and applicable.
There's a lot more distributed generation at this stage. So we have solar, wind power, biomass, all different sources of electricity. They're all on the grid.
From a technology viewpoint, the main challenge is how we link renewable power sources into the electrical grid. And in order to accomplish that, we need better infrastructure.
ICT is the function which will look at how we answer the different problems that exist here.
In order to achieve a high efficiency, we need, of course, communication, information technology to automate the interlinking of both systems.
Things are changing rapidly, and the merge between energy and ICT is an incredible revolution, and that's what we work on here in ACS.
In the FINESC project, we have the opportunity to build real working trials of the concepts and solutions that were developed in the FinCENI project to balance the energy demand and generation in the smart grid. The results of these trials will pave the way towards implementing a smart grid in Europe.
Great. So these were just a brief introduction about the program, and one of the areas more promising were FI-WARE technologies, and the creation of this open innovation ecosystem is really promising. But there is a second area about which we have set up this roundtable, which is smart cities, and for this we are glad to present and introduce to you this exciting panel of representatives from different cities in Europe. So let me introduce briefly each of them. Ms. Katia Beatrici comes from the municipality of Trento, and from 2007 she is in charge of the international relationship by the cabinet of the mayor, and also representing Trento in many of international initiatives and involved in the programs towards the push of smart cities policies. Mr. Gerd Baron represents the Amsterdam Economic Board, whose mission is to facilitate knowledge institutions, companies and the government to collaborate in the field of innovation. making usage of the technology and quite involved in all open data initiatives and smart city initiatives linked to the city of Aston. Mr. Dave Carter, DDA, coordinates the Manchester Digital Strategy and is part of the Regeneration Division of the Manchester City Council. He coordinates the Manchester Living Lab and quite involved in well-reputed representative of the smart city initiatives from the city of Manchester. And finally, Mr. Mark Sanderson is the first director of Malaga Valley International Economic Development. He's involved in many activities there that have to do with fostering entrepreneurship in the city of Malaga and also dealing with internationalization aspects in the city and several smart cities initiatives in that city. With this first introduction, I would like to open the floor with a very open question. We all heard about this buzzword about the smart cities, open data, and all the stuff is in all newspapers and so on. But what is your particular vision about the smart city concept, and how are you trying to materialize that vision through the different programs in your city? Maybe Dave Carter, could you take first your...
Okay, thanks very much. I'm really here to think of two things. One is my own city, Manchester. I don't know how many people know it, in the north of England, a failing industrial city facing absolute economic disaster at the late 80s, which has had to reinvent itself. And I think to us, a smart city actually is, infrastructure's fine, but it's about people. I can't see how you can possibly have a smart city or a community without smart people. So our focus is on how you engage users, how you build digital literacy, how you get people involved in generating services and content through co-production. The second view is, because we have this connected smart cities network, which I chair, I found myself on the board, the advisory board of the Future Internet PPP, and I'm the only person there who represents you guys, i.e. users. So one of the things I want to get out of this is, if you've got a view of FI-WARE or FIPPP, how it can be improved, please let me know, because at the moment empirical feedback about what's fantastic and what's not is not there yet. So I'm really looking forward to get that from the Q&A session today.
Gerd, your the Amsterdam Economic Board also involve entrepreneurs and technology providers. How are you trying to put all this mix together in your strategy and towards the definition of a smart citizen?
Well, actually, I think great question. I mean, the challenge is how to make people collaborate, because in the end, like Dave stated, it is about people. I think when we start to work at our smart city program in 2008, 2009, we were a bit influenced by all the big corporates who came with this 150-page slide decks with having about smart cities or connected city or intelligent cities, and they all stated they were the solution for everything. There's a technology to solve every problem, and then we thought, well, maybe this is not the way. Maybe it's not like our mayor presses a button and he just orders a smart city, and then he get this control center and all these buttons to turn on and everything. Well, this is not a smart city we envision. So we thought, well, when you talk about, it's about like every city. It's an interaction between entrepreneurs, citizens, consumers, the government in the role facilitating all these things, knowledge institutions to come up with new concepts and bring knowledge. And one of the ways we've been starting to do that up to 2009 is first have an infrastructure program, making sure the infrastructures are in place. Means broadband, internet, LTE, fiber to the home, smart energy grids and all these things, which is important to have in your city as a base. But on top of that, people should come up with applications that make use of the city, make use of these infrastructures, come up with ideas for energy, for healthcare and so on. And the way to do that for us was basically, well, like Manchester is doing, is find this living lab model where we just started to, well, lean startup methodology basically, just to try things and see what worked and what didn't work. And for us, this was the best way to involve SMEs especially into this smart city thinking, because real innovation doesn't come from the corporates. Once it is there, they can implement it and scale it and all these things. But by us, it was really by doing loads of pilots, experiments, before we went to scaling when you talk about smart cities. And now all those things interact with consumers, interact with entrepreneurs who just are in the city. So, well, living lab methodology was pretty important for us, I think. And our current philosophy is that, well, we basically see the city as an infrastructure platform where we invite entrepreneurs, large, small, to come up with their solutions, applications for our smart city to improve, well, life of the people working and living in our city.
Indeed, introducing this concept of ecosystem with the several stakeholders. So one question that I would like to make to all of you, and starting with Ms. Beatrice, is how could you achieve the critical mass? Because that is an important aspect. Is this something you believe a city can make alone, or how do you envision this could be materialized in your study in Trento?
Thank you. No, alone I think that we have no possibility, no chance to have success in our process in order to be a smart city. In order to have a critical mass, we have to join and to collaborate with the public and private sector. The partnership is a crucial point of our success, and in order to be critical, we have to attract developers and SME. And funding also, and we are trying to do it. We signed an important partnership with our university and the research center working in our region. But in order to mention your question, not alone, it's not possible to have success. We have to join, to share a language, a common environment where everybody is able to think smart.
What about, Mark, the policies in Malaga and the role that the Malaga Valley is playing in that thing?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to participate in this forum, in this roundtable. I'm excited to be here from Malaga. For those of you who don't know, Malaga is on the southern coast of Spain. It is the birthplace of Pablo Picasso. Like Manchester, we've suffered our economic trials as well. I think you've probably read about in the press as far as what Spain is going through right now with its unemployment. When we look at a smart city and how to utilize that for us, what we see is that it's important for not only to have the people involved, but also to use the technologies that are available in order to provide better services using less money, less energy for the citizens. I mean, ultimately, what we want to try to do is create a city that functions and ultimately saves time for the citizens, right? Because everyone is running around with their work, with their life, education, etc. And what they're really looking for is ways they can save time. And they don't want to be stuck in traffic. They don't want to have to be waiting for or have problems with electricity or waiting for the bus to come and all these other things. So any way that we can use technology in order to help our citizens have a better experience, not only our citizens but the people that are visiting our city, is extremely important to us. The city of Malaga is committed to that. The mayor has been focusing on that for the last 8 to 10 years. A lot of that has been the programs that we've implemented have been thankful for a project that is Malaga Valley, which you mentioned, which is as a technology park of 500 technology companies that we have there, both multinationals and SMEs. And what we're doing is this ecosystem that you mentioned is helping them have access to the data and the services that the city has, and asking them, what can we do to help the citizens? What sort of solutions can we provide? And it's amazing what those entrepreneurs can come up with, things that we've never thought of before. So that's really, and in the end, we all win, and we create a smarter city that functions, reduces the CO2 emissions using renewable energy, etc. So that's what we're looking for and where we're driving in Malaga.
A lot about open innovation, open data. What can you tell us, Dave? And in Manchester, what are you approaching that is?
The most important thing for us is to encourage kind of autonomous action by developers and activists. We have a very active open data Manchester group, which has nothing to do with the city council. It's organised by people who want to see change, whether they are developers themselves or whether they're active in campaigning for open data. And they really challenge us as a city, firstly to be open data by default, which we've just declared. So in future, all staff of the city have to make a case for why data is closed, otherwise it's open automatically. We had our first major hackathon last year where 16 new apps were developed, and we're actually working to support 4 of those groups, develop those apps as apps that would be used for the cities, free to citizens, but then could be licensed for them to commercially exploit as entrepreneurs. And the key thing is we have one creative space which has also been set up autonomously called the Manchester Digital Lab. Everyone calls it Mad Lab because it is a bit mad in what it does, but it's a fantastic catalyst for new ideas. And if you want to know more about what's happening at Manchester at the Creative Edge, just look at Mad Lab for doing that. And that has really encouraged people in authority to understand that developers aren't just a pain who keep asking you to do things in the city that you don't really want to do. They can actually be really creative partners, and out of that can come new jobs, new skills, new applications, and that boosts both the reputation of the city and the economy of the city, and that's got to be a good thing. So our focus really is, as Geir said, on the Living Lab approach, which is getting test projects, pilot projects. We have a do-it-yourself Arduino sensor project monitoring air quality. We have further hackathons planned, but you really just got to engage with the users and make things happen.
Thank you. Now I would like to make an open question to the whole panel, and please, take your time and take the turn and speak whenever you want, and even comment on whatever comment from the other speaker. The open question to the roundtable is, what is the role you envision that the standards may play and the definition of a platform may play in this concept of materialization of a smart city? And what can be done regarding the definition of this open innovation ecosystem that we aim to boost? And what is the role of FIWARE and the FIPPP in this whole context? What could we help you in this approach and so on? So anyone who wants to answer this question?
Thank you for such an easy question. I just make one comment to start, really. One is that no one really knows yet. Standards in the past have been defined by governments and big corporations. Can we have open standards in the same way that we think about open data and open source, i.e. de facto standards that are agreed by communities, and then they are demonstrated that that's a really good way to ensure interoperability and people working together? And I think some of the work around things like Arduino technology, Internet of Things, can begin to establish those kind of standards. But this is really why we need your feedback on FI-WARE, because we think it can work, we think it should work, but we're not yet sure whether it will work or how effectively it will be. And that's where engaging users to actually have some element, not just of feedback, but of actually control and decision making in the way we develop those platforms is so important.
Yeah, for the same, what I mentioned it before, in order to have a common culture and a common environment, we have to act together and to work on common standards. And it's like we have a kitchen course and everybody go to the supermarket, buy by himself the salt, the pepper, vinaigrette and oil. So we are trying in Trento to filling the refrigerator with everything a chef made, the cooker can need in order to dress the table. So common instruments, big basis, very rich, and everybody can use the resource in order to create innovation.
Well, I think, on my left hand, I just heard a good economic crisis was very good for Manchester and Malaga. We really never had a real crisis in Amsterdam, so maybe we should have one as well. But for the last 400 years, actually, we've been very rich as a city, and our wisdom started because we were opening up financial data, basically. 400 years ago, Amsterdam was the richest city in the world. Over 50% of all the cargo vessels in the world were registered in Amsterdam. Because you had a small square in the middle of the city of 4 by 400 meters, where basically all the information of cargo in the world was available and accessible. We know exactly what ship in the world was, who owned the cargo, what cargo was on it, where it was from, where it was going to, type of vessel, and so on. So that enabled us to start the first stock exchange, first financial newspapers, and so on. And that enabled average citizens of Amsterdam to invest in cargo, be part of the trade, and so on and so on. So actually 400 years ago, open data made us the richest city in the world, basically, when you think about it. When you translate that, at that moment, it was very important to have certain standards about, how do you have the typology of the ships, how do you have the indications for types of cargo, and so on. Otherwise, you couldn't compare what you were doing. I think we now see the same thing. I mean, we've been organizing hackathons and apps competitions for the last 5 years on a, annual base, biannual base sometimes, 3-4 times a year when we look into it. There are over 100 apps being developed at the moment based on open data and so on. But we all see the business models of these open data apps are not for the city of Amsterdam. Business models are only will be working when you could use the same apps in different cities throughout Europe and throughout the world in the end. So I think standardization is very important, and I think when FIWARE can be the layer in between organizing the discussion, what standards, what protocols we need to use in a city, it will be a tremendous added value, because then you really can start to make scale and compare the information of other cities in the world and make sure the apps don't only work in our, insignificant city, I would almost say, because we're only 1 million people, but use it throughout Europe. So then you really can start make the revolution Dave was talking about and get this bottom-up approach, and you can make applications that are replicable throughout Europe. So I think FIWARE, and I'm not sure if this will be the standard in the end, but what it does right now is organize the discussions, organize the community to come up with the proper protocols and proper standards in the near future, hopefully. And I think this is something we as a city really need, because, we still have a city board who thinks in regulations and they're all lawyers and everything, but technology and data within the city will be the biggest driver of, prosperity within the next years. And, we need standards and platforms to make that happen.
Yeah, and I would add that it's nothing that only the city needs, but also the developers, because the great opportunity there is also that whatever you develop for one city could be offered to all the cities in Europe, and why not, if we make it very successful, go to other regions and open opportunities to SMEs, entrepreneurs in Europe to go and expand globally, because internet is about globalization. What do you think?
I agree. I want to note that, so when I said the city, I didn't mean the government. When I talk about the city, it's about people living there, working there, and so on. So the city is inclusive and not the city governments to ensure.
So what do you think about the opportunity this could bring to the developers, the startups? You have a very close connection to those through Malaga Valley. So how do you see this?
No, I think it's the standardization is important. All of these smart cities you see represented today, we have sensors measuring air quality, water flow, even noise pollution. All the buses are being tracked. We're collecting all this information and data, and the question now is how to use it. What is it going to be? How are we going to use that to improve our citizens' lives? And we also need to be able to compare that to other cities in order to I guess scalability to use it. So as these entrepreneurs get involved, if they just make a solution application for Malaga, for example, and it's not scalable because there are no standards involved, then I think it fails, right? And also, that's not to say that the solution for Malaga can't be created by some entrepreneur in Amsterdam, for example. But if they're not using the same, you're not comparing apples to apples, then it's not going to work. So the standardization and the programs behind FIWARE are critical for that, so that we can. I mean, the internet connects everyone together, but we need to make sure the data is on the same page as well. And that's, I think, where the platform for FIWARE provides that connectivity, and you have to have the standards involved so that you can make the comparisons, but also the solutions are then scalable around the world, around Europe. So,
Dave, you mentioned earlier then the standards could not be created by organizations that's from the scratch in theory, from a theoretical perspective or theoretical approach. We believe really in FIWARE about driven by implementation standards. So is that the way you envision that these standards in smart city field will emerge?
I just hope so. I mean, the problem in the past is when you have mentioned standards to startup companies, users, you know, it's not something that they feel any ownership of. Standards are obviously set down. I mean, if you're a small company dealing in manufacturing with certain ISO standards, you see this as regulation. You see this as a burden, often, not necessarily an opportunity or something positive. So I think the real challenge is to find ways that in this world of future internet, of cloud, of Internet of Things, of open data, standards can be built from the bottom up as well as the top down, and that means compromises may have to be reached. So those that own certain patents may have to sacrifice some of those in this kind of Wikinomics world, to be willing to let that out to people into the almost open source world. But equally, people who are developing open source products have to realize that things like interoperability are a very, very serious issue, and you can't just have 16 different versions of an open source app, none of which really works together. So if we can reach a compromise, we could potentially get the best of both worlds, but I think there's still got to be much more engagement with the user community, because at the moment I still fear that so much standards work is developed in isolation, and users are asked only when the standard is nearly developed, and users are not involved in that earlier stage of design work. And so when in the Living Labs movement we talk about user-driven open innovation from the very, very first stage of specification and validation.
Many times when we talk about smart cities, I have find out that many people thought about individuals and how this could affect the life of citizens in an individual basis. But I believe it has a lot of potential also about how businesses are performed in the city and how they can really achieve the higher productivity and run their business more efficiently. What do you think about this, Gero or Mark?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the whole. I mean, well, to say, well, I don't know a better comparison, so I use a very old one. But I mean, the whole idea that data is the fuel of 2013, basically. So fossil fuel will be replaced by data in terms of business models. I mean, this is happening. And what happens in when you talk about smart cities, which basically is a marketing concept created by IBM, and we use it because it's great to tell the story when you think about these things. But in the end, it's about how to cope and use the information that's available nowadays with the millions of sensors you have around, and how to get this information to people who can make automated or personal decisions on what they're going to do. And this will be part of the business model of many companies. I mean, think about how we pick our books nowadays. I mean, when you log in on Amazon, you get 25 tips of the books your best friends read. I mean, this will also be the way how to find your way throughout the city, or how to go to a retail store or do your groceries and so on. So the streams of data that go throughout the city will be, well, very interesting to cope with that in terms of IT infrastructure, data centers and everything. But to leverage on that, I mean, this will be the new business models very soon. I mean, when you look at, well, last 10, 15 IPOs in the United States, most of them are about resources and materials, or about companies who earn their money with data. So data will be the new key business model, I'm pretty sure about it.
One question to Ms. Beatrici is, Trento is a good example where we talk about the region of Trento, but also the city of Trento municipality. How you envision that policies can be shared among both municipality level, region level, and efforts can be put together towards materialization of all these concepts and usage of open data, because open data is not just municipality data, there are also data about regions, and how that can be combined for the benefit of businesses and citizens.
We are already working a lot in order to to collaborate. We collaborate and we have many agreements, I mentioned it before, among university, the research center, region, provincial level and municipal level. And then our next challenge will be the education. We have to educate not only citizens, but also our administrator and our mayor and our executive committee, all the political level. We have to educate them to create this, not to offer open data, because we offer a lot of open data. This is a part of our project, but to create an open system, because if you create an open system, this a common language that allows to speak each other better and to create more innovation. So this is our next step, the 3.0 mission of our region, to collaborate and to educate citizens and politicians also.
Do you want to say something, Mark?
Well, I think it's important to not just look at the cities, but also look at the surrounding areas, and that's one thing we do in the region or Malaga Valley. I mean, it includes not only the city of Malaga, but the surrounding cities as well. Some of the other areas around Malaga offer different things, whether it's financial backing or investments, and the city provides the logistics and the organization, and the people may come and live from another area. So I think it's important to aggregate, not be limited just to the city, but to look at all the resources around the city in order to build on that. Again, we don't know where or who's going to come up with the next solution, and we want to open this data up and have them have access to it to find the solutions.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but I would like to leave the floor also to people in the audience to make some questions to the panelists. So if there is any question, if not, I can continue, but please raise your hand and make any question.
Don't be shy, it's not that often you can speak to Dave.
It's interesting to hear of your thoughts on how smart cities are coming about and how you're integrating into that. My question is actually a bit more specific. Have you got any examples of how service sector companies like maybe waste disposal companies or electric companies are already integrating data to either improve their business models or improve the lives of citizens?
Well, in all teams basically, but energy probably is the most classic one basically. I mean, when you look at how our program evolved, when we started in 2009, the starting point of everything we did, give insight to people. So give people insight in the use of energy, waste, mobility, and so on. So let's take the energy example, healthcare. Take the energy example. We started out with developing energy displays, giving energy feedback from the smart meter, who were far away in the closet most of the time, to apps on their mobile phone to give insight. And once we started to do that, so immediately there was a whole bunch of companies who came up with all types of services that related to the use of energy based on consumer behavior and stimulate people to behave differently. And now you see that we spend 2 billion a year in the metropolitan area of Amsterdam to procure energy, and nowadays 100 million of the same 2 billion, because still the same amount of money, is being spent on services that relate saving energy, and awareness is created because people see the effects directly, and loads of business models are now based on like you procure solar panels, you can immediately measure if the solar panels deliver the amount of energy that was promised. And based on that, all types of collaborative and cooperatives are being made to people start their own energy company, because the data is accessible for everybody. So we see a whole bunch of business only coming from the whole idea to give people the data, their data on the use of energy, and people now start to build their own energy companies together with their neighbors, with their best friends, people starting name with an A and everything. So it's a very classic example, but it's also most advanced. There are over 40 new energy companies started in our city within the last years, started by individuals or small companies, because they have the data and they didn't have it before. Obviously there are a tremendous amount of examples around healthcare as well, around mobility. I think, there are quite a few examples.
Any Anyone wants to add something on this?
I mean, two things actually, good and bad. I mean, I think a good one. I mean, our transport agency, Transport for Greater Manchester, has used the Open Apps competition to develop a number of kind of user-driven apps about how you can integrate transport and information about transport so you can get around on public transport very easily. I'd actually, for once, talk quite negatively about some of the challenges, though, because in a country like the UK, where outside of London all transport is privatised, and the private companies say, no, we will not put GPS systems in our buses unless you give us millions of pounds to do so, is very frustrating. And when, as soon as we talk about intelligent bins, the newspapers will go and say, City wants to spy on citizens to, find out what they're throwing away. And so, there are a lot of perceptual challenges to things that technologically are very easy to do. And the interesting thing when you look at continental Europe, where the buses and trains are still run by the city, in many cases the energy company is run by the city. It's so much easier when you can bring together users and institutions that at least have some semblance of democratic control. And I think in the UK we have some fantastic ideas, but implementing them can be a little bit more difficult in the public sphere. I think probably in the business sphere probably more easily, but that's a good and the bad story from Manchester, certainly.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Oh
wow, 3.
Hi. Oops, sorry, that was a little bit loud. No, I just really wanted to ask, obviously we're talking about making the life of the citizens of the city better, and I just wondered really if any polling had been done to the citizens to see what they feel would make their life better and what's important to them, or if someone at the top just decides what they think will make their life better and implements it to try it.
Yeah, so the kind of we tried. What you see is very correct. We have a limit. Till now, we offered some services, and we thought that our service, our technology was the best, and it could solve a problem and improve the quality of life of the citizen, but it's not so. And then you hope that somebody will use the service of this app, but it doesn't happen. So we started a new project, the name is Smart Campus, and we are developing and thinking the services really needed from the students. It's a university with students. They're really improving together with the university to offer and demand together, and they're asking what they need, they are using and giving feedback about they could develop. So it's an example of participation.
Well, specifically in Malaga, we have an entire department that's devoted to citizen participation, and so this department, obviously, we have kiosks set up around the city in the municipal buildings where people, it's like a suggestion box, but they can input the information, and then we also do surveys to citizens anytime we have interaction or contacts with them. So we're also very concerned about what they call the digital divide or breach, and trying to educate citizens, because unfortunately many people have never seen perhaps an iPhone or an iPad or a smartphone, whatever, and so we have buses, and we go around and visit the neighborhoods and show people, and at the same time ask them what services and things they want to see from their city. Also, another thing in Spain is that the media, whether it's newspaper or digital media, people are very keen on sending their comments into the paper, the newspaper, or to the websites. And I think you see that also with Twitter and other social medias, that they're not afraid to complain or make suggestions about what would make their lives better. We've actually taken that to the next step and implemented a program that's an application for their phones that where citizens can take photographs of if there's a broken street sign or a hole in the ground, and email that to the city, and we'll take care of that and actually email it back to them once with a photograph saying this has been resolved. And so we definitely listen to the citizens. That's vital. That's important. That's what we're there for.
I think the same goes for us. I think there are 4 ways to interact with citizens. One is the Living Lab methodology, which really interactive based on a certain theme. I mean, that really works to get information. Secondly, we have organized user groups on a district level, on a thematic level, and we also do regularly, once, twice a year, surveys amongst certain neighborhoods or areas and just ask open, blunt, what's your issue? And the fourth one, maybe is most important, it's called elections, which is every 4 years, and then teams will pop up anyhow.
Okay, there was another question, yes. I think we can take just one.
Yeah, thank you. As cities, how do you benefit from hackathons? Do you think that you are benefiting? I mean, how? Or do you?
We've taken ideas both from Amsterdam and New York, so we're not claiming to be first in any way. And I think some decision makers, particularly at the political level, needed convincing that this wasn't just allowing data to go to hackers for its own sake, that it had a real purpose. And I think there were two things really. One is a genuine commitment to do it, because there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of talking about user engagement, but unless you really do make, as we did for our first hackathon, 60 data sets that had never been open, completely open, and engage with that process, then there's a reputational thing that needs to be established first. But secondly, I mean, out of the 16 teams that took part in that first one, and we've had about 6 smaller hackathons since, we could have had no useful apps at all. And I think probably 12 of the 16 came out with something that everyone who took part agreed could be used, and 4 of them, as I mentioned, are actually in development as real apps that will go on either responsive website or directly to phone apps. Those people now have a chance with some of the prize money, which was fairly small. So let's be honest, in these really difficult times, it's incredibly cheap to do a hackathon rather than go out to tender for contracts for apps that might never happen. So it's a testing the market, testing the skills of these people. And for us, I think everyone has thought it was a brilliant idea, but we didn't exactly invent it. So in some ways, we could take some of the lessons, good and bad, from New York and Amsterdam and kind of reconfigure them. But 90% positive rating, and I think the only 10% that came back negative was not enough prize money.
I think we're doing these hackathons, and they're pretty good to put things on the agenda or to get data requests and all these things, and we're still doing them, which is good. Actually, the organization that organizes most of them is called Hack the Government, so it gives a bit of an idea of how we look into this. But we now also have accelerator programs and incubator programs clicked onto that, because a hackathon gives a bit of an idea, but doesn't give you something that's, in the App Store tomorrow and it's scalable. You can expect that as well from developers. So like you have 4 selected and you really start to work with them. I mean, this is where hackathons are good for, to gather ideas, to put it on the agenda, but then you really need to help people to supply the proper data dynamically, preferably, in a proper API and all these things. And this is something the city should realize as well. It's not like we organize a hackathon and we have 150 of brilliant apps. It doesn't work that way. You really need to support developers a bit further, I think.
So, thank you. I think it has been a very great panel. So let me ask you for an applause to the panelists. Okay, yes. We have talked about smart cities, but as I explained at the beginning, FIWARE is also trying to tackle many other areas, being a smart city in one of the most promising. Let me show you another video about another project within the PPP program that is trying to achieve the application of FI-WARE technologies in other domains, in particular generation of content.
In the FI Content Initiative to drive innovation at the crossroads of content, media, networks and creativity. FI Content aims at developing and experimenting cutting-edge ICT platforms across Europe, devoted to applications and services in the areas of social connected TV, smart city services, and pervasive game platforms. Any European stakeholders, particularly developers and SMEs willing to innovate and boost their business, can access and use these open platforms. Whilst doing so, they'll receive support from the FI content companies and research centres. Open Calls will offer funding to selected stakeholders to support their efforts. FI Content is part of the Future Internet Public-Private Partnership, or FIPPP flagship programme, supported by the European Commission, with total investment of €600 million over 5 years, to build Europe's future Internet. Join the FI Content community now.
Okay, so let me end up with a couple of announcements, and then for closing, the last video about how FI-WARE is being used in the e-health area, which is one of the also very rather promising areas where we believe that the definition of standards and the creation of an open innovation ecosystem can really bring a differential value. And that announcement I wanted to make is that one of the hackathons that we plan to run, well, it's going to be more a kind of a challenge with that will expand over the whole period until the end of the project FI-WARE is special challenge on smart cities. So let me take advantage of our presence in this stage to announce the launch of this challenge. There will be at least 150,000 euros in prizes for this challenge. We aim to find out the best applications that can really help to materialize this concept of smart cities. So any entrepreneurs, developers that believe can have great ideas on how those applications could work. Please stay tuned, because we will publish information about this challenge in both the website, FI-WARE website, but also the Campus Zeros platform. So it is, I assume that all of you are already connected to the Campus Zeros platform, so that means that soon you will receive an email describing this new challenge, which is going to be exciting. We are going to run it over several phases, classification phases, and also giving the opportunity to the different contestants to attend other campus parties, promote their applications in those campus parties, and show it to cities that are going to be there also present. So this is going to be really great, lot of fun, but also a lot of business opportunities for entrepreneurs. Don't forget the hackathon that we have currently in place in the campus party. You know that we are giving 20,000 in prizes, and there is one special prize that has to do with connection with the Internet of Things, and that is clearly an area where you could put in place some ideas that could be exported to smart cities. We also made a liaison with one of the hackathons that is also running in parallel, which is the Hacking for Something Better hackathon. So one of the prizes they are running is for smart cities applications in this campus party. So if you develop a nice application that could apply for smart cities using FI-WARE technology, you will be able to get a lot of money out of it. Let me finish now with a video about e-health and the application of FI-WARE technologies in e-health, and with this we could close this session. Thank you very much for your attendance.
The way we deliver healthcare, not only in the UK or in European countries, but globally, has to change. The reason for that is simply the demographic development and the costs to society.
Most of the patients here in Romania, the cardiac ones, aren't really used to using mobile phones or tablets, but I think the way this program is made, it will make things much more easier.
I hope that FI-STAR can give us a platform to be able to give psychotherapy to all patients with bipolar disorder.
We are here developing new technologies for surgery and gastrointestinal medicine to reduce surgical trauma.
Senti che la tecnologia ti sta aiutando? Senti che è una cosa buona?
Sì, sì, certo.
I hope that it will be a really nice solution, proving that that several people, several companies having the same vision can create one common thing for everybody.
Okay, so thank you for attending. Just last reminder about the next workshop of FI-WARE, which is going to happen at 4 o'clock, so in 5 minutes. And we'll deal with 3D web technologies and how you could incorporate also augmented reality features, which is something, by the way, very related to smart cities applications, and also media processing generic enablers that you could use nicely to create that application that will really be able to win the contest this Friday. Thank you very much for attending, and also again to the panelists for this question.